So in the last session, which was our introduction to the 18-week students, which is posted as an A and a B in the course, we discussed the student handbook, and we discussed plagiarism, and then some of the different actions that happen if a student plagiarizes. The first one being a loss of points of the assignment. There is no option to redo the assignment. If the plagiarism continues in a course, then there's disciplinary action in accordance with the Georgia Virtual School Student Handbook, and then also with your home school. So it's really important that you don't do that, and that all the work that you submit to your course this semester is yours and yours alone, without the help of anyone else. So what is plagiarism? And so we're just going to kind of look at this, because sometimes I think students will submit work that's accidental plagiarism and think that that's okay when it's not. If you look at this chart, what is plagiarism? There's deliberate and accidental. Both should not be done. So it's good to have an understanding of what they are so you don't do them. Is when you present your work or when you present someone else's work or ideas as your own. So deliberate. This is rewriting from a book, copying and pasting from web pages to create patchwork writing. And you see this sometimes where a student has gone in and taken 4 or 5 different sources and then cut and pasted from those sources without paraphrasing or without citing that information, and that is called patchwork writing. Buying or downloading or borrowing a paper, especially don't borrow someone's paper from a previous semester. Don't get one off the internet. Don't take your friends in this class and submit it as your own. The work at Georgia Virtual goes through plagiarism checkers, and you actually can see your plagiarism checker when you submit an assignment. I have it set so that students can see those checkers when they submit their work. So just know that that's there, and just don't do it. Accidental plagiarism, not knowing how to cite. If you're unsure going in how to cite something, please reach out. I've also provided sources in your course homepage under the links section for help with citing through the Al Purdue. And so for psychology, which is the social science, you should be using APA. But in my on-level psychology classes, which would be Psychology A or Psychology AB, I would accept MLA. For the AP psychology students, they should be using APA solely for citing their work. Another thing would be not knowing how to paraphrase or summarize. I'm also going to add, along with this recording from tonight, a really great video on how to paraphrase properly. We'll talk about it a little bit in this presentation. And then recycling an old paper. And this is when you take a paper that you wrote maybe for an English class, and you say, oh, this fits into my assignment for my psychology class, and you go ahead and submit that. You should not do that. You should be creating new work for each one of your assignments in this course. Why shouldn't you do it? Because it's fraud, it's stealing, it's lying. You're presenting another's work as your own. It belongs to someone else. And then most importantly, what have you learned? You haven't learned the content, and you need to learn the content. There's no opportunity to practice or improve with your writing. In AP Psychology, that's going to be especially important since you have to write on the AP exam free response questions, and so you should be practicing writing about psychology often. How can you avoid it? Number one, don't cut and paste from a website or retype something from a print source. One of the things that I like to do, and I think I shared with you at the welcome session, is that I'm also in school right now working on my specialist degree, so I have to write a lot too. If I have a source and I want to use it in something that I'm writing, if it's a book, I will close the book when I'm doing my writing. Or if it's a web page, I'll either minimize that screen or close it before I do my writing. So I'm not tempted to make it too similar to the original source. If you do that and you put it in your own words, it's a lot easier to avoid plagiarism. Don't use or buy someone else's paper, and this is self-explanatory. We talked about this a second ago. Paraphrase and attribute, so make sure you give the source credit, and then use quotes and citations. But don't get too heavy with the quotes where your paper is just a bunch of quotation marks. Again, teachers check papers against online databases that reveal work copied from websites. That includes students who've been at Georgia Virtual School, and then the internet, papers submitted to colleges. This database just builds and builds and builds every time a student submits paper. And then when the next student submits paper, they check against one another. Another one is teachers will recognize your writing and know if it's not yours. And this I've seen appear in the discussion board. If you are writing a certain type of discussion over and over again, and then your discussion drastically changes, it usually means that you did not do the work yourself. So just, especially in those situations, the discussion board is an opportunity to talk about your ideas and how you feel about the content and what you're learning and things like that. So what should you do instead? Paraphrase, put things in your own words. To do that, you must change the words in the sentence structure, and then you must give credit to that source. Here's some examples. So this is from plagiarism.com. This is the original source up at the top. Simply put, plagiarism is the use of another's original words or ideas as though they were your own. Anytime you borrow from an original source and do not give proper credit, you have committed plagiarism and violated U.S. copyright laws. Then my paraphrase. According to plagiarism.com, so I'm giving credit, plagiarism happens anytime you present someone else's work as if it was yours. If you don't give credit to a source, it's a violation of copyright. And so the same idea is being presented, but the wording is different. Using quotes and citations. So you can use someone else's words if you put them in quotations. Here are a couple of examples. According to plagiarism.com, plagiarism, in quotations, is the use of another's original words or ideas as though they were your own. Or it's a violation of copyright law to present another's original words or ideas as though they were your own because it's considered plagiarism. And if you compare those quotations to the paraphrase, there's really not a whole lot of difference in what you're doing here. You've reworded this properly, and you're still conveying the same idea as these two examples. So putting it together, what should you do when you're writing or working on a project? Use a combination of the quotations and paraphrasing throughout your paper. Analyze the information and include your own thoughts and ideas. So take something from the source, but then elaborate on it with knowledge that you have. And then definitely create a works cited page at the end of your paper or PowerPoint or what have you that lists all the sources that you used. And then if you have any questions, be sure that you ask. And so I just wanted to go over that a bit so we kind of clarified some of the plagiarism so we don't run into issues further in the semester. This is an example of a works cited page. One thing you would want to know is that when you're creating yours, both MLA and APA require that there's double space throughout your citation. So you want to make sure that you do that as well. But again, a short little presentation tonight. I'm going to turn off the recording, but I'm here to answer more questions about content and assignments that are going on this week.